Here we are. Stumbling in. Northallerton. Let me just have a quick sip. Hang on.
Listen to the noise, you'll go, oh.
Fifth pint.
That's a great pint.
It's his second pint.
Should we get the show on the road then?
Go on then.
Let's do it.
Hello, this is the Every Man Can podcast. Podcast based on mental strength, how we can use it in our everyday lives. Interviewing local people, using their experience, their wealth of experience through their personal journeys and their own professional journeys, how they use it for themselves, how they use it for other people, and hopefully you can take something from it. We hope you enjoy.
Thank you, my sound man, Matt Holman, for the day. Matt Sterling, you've made it.
I've made it, I'm here.
Been in training in Durham.
Yes, I have.
Came down here, hopefully to the illegal speed limit.
I'd stick to every speed limit that was...
Of course, didn't set any fires off on the way. No RTAs. Nothing like that.
RTCs, no.
RTC, sorry. Yeah. What's an RTA?
RTA.
Oh God, I'm getting like him with the gifts and the gaffs. And the, can you send me the gift gaff? Send me the jib pig.
How are you?
Good.
Yeah, good. Very good, actually. Pretty good times. How
Good
about you?
week.
Yeah, do you know, it has been a busy week as well. Been on Alan's course. Did 2 more days on that last week. Obviously loving that as well, and seems to reflect in every single corner of my life and conversation that I have. There's something about the way you hold your mic stand, Matt.
Double-hander.
Well, it certainly is. It's more the vertical movement that you give it as well while giving me one eye.
2 pints.
I mean, that's it. Not even that.
Matt, how are
Not
you?
even that.
Am I allowed a word?
That's good. You had a good week?
I've had a great
Good.
Do you know what? Just busy. So busy. Like I said, I've just flew down the whatever motorway. I've just flew down just now because I'm on a course all week.
Yes.
But yes.
Is this to do with your promotion?
Yes. So this is my fire service.
Do you like to talk about
course.
it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, of course you are, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not very exciting.
What's the training?
He's just told me,
Fire
really,
City,
Matt.
What's the training? Make it quick.
That's why Matt's asleep. I've just been trying to explain it, and he's like, "Oh, whatever."
Yeah.
It's a good course, not as good as the courses we're going to talk about in a minute from
No, that's for
our
sure.
guest today.
That's for sure. Well, our guest today, the reason we're in Northallerton is the hometown.
I'm all right. I've had a good week.
Oh, hang on a second. Oh, hang on. I'll get to do it back to him now. Oh, Matt,
No.
have you had a good week?
Crack on. Go on.
I remember that episode where he was like, oh, Richie, sorry, did we forget about you?
We did forget about it.
Matt Holman, how's your week been?
Shit. Really shit.
But we know.
Really shit. Carry
And we
on.
talked about it, haven't we?
I know, but
You've been out on the bike twice.
twice.
Last 2 days.
Once-
Back on the bike.
Once morning, once yesterday morning.
Yeah.
Yesterday was I couldn't be bothered, but I dragged my ass out.
You did that picture on Instagram where it was like, what is it? You got the fluorescent like colours on.
I like my.
That's all right.
I'm going to drop that picture on all socials.
I like
Every
it.
Man Can podcast.
I
so
like
have a look.
my retro cycling neon 80s gear. I'm always on the look for retro cycling gear.
Charity shops.
So I just thought I wouldn't take my bad dreams,
Yeah.
my PTSD reliving itself,
Oh, Jesus.
or myself seriously. So I thought I'd post a photo of me.
It was good.
Did you notice my bottle even matched?
But you know,
Ridiculous.
you do know what works for you. But then you got a message afterwards to say, got a couple of messages saying, oh, yeah, I saw you on the bike.
I saw you on the bike
Bike,
back on the road.
Yeah, I
I
reckon.
didn't realise it was you till I saw the gear.
I was about 3 miles away. I
I
couldn't.
think they've gone past and thought, who's that? Look at
Yeah.
the clip of it.
Yeah. I couldn't. That's why they've remembered you, because you stuck out.
So no,
Brilliant. Glad to see you back on the bike, pal.
good.
Back
Thanks.
out moving. We have got with us Alan Johnson today. Hello, Alan.
Hiya, how are you doing?
Come forward to the mic.
I know. Hello.
Sorry, come forward to the. What do you call it in a church when you've got the.
That 2 pints, Rich. Just crack on.
Yeah. Alan,
Hello.
this is your hometown.
It is now, yeah.
You recommended this this fine establishment.
Absolutely.
We've got Pat at the bar. We've got Dave the owner. He hasn't shown his face yet, but we understand he might well be popping
You
in
might do, yeah.
later on as well. It's a nice little microbrewery in Northallerton.
And we've got a guest who came in and thought he has to be really quiet.
Yeah, no, he's not big.
He's tried not to make any noise.
That's right. Some lovely guys. Let me introduce you, Alan. You are the owner and trainer at Change Working, therapist and coach at Alan Johnson Change. Also known as the NLP bloke on his podcast.
Look.
Not, what did I say earlier?
It's the NLP guy.
NLP guy. Oh, yeah. Not the NLP guy, it's the NLP bloke on his podcast and socials. Originally qualified as an RGN, that's a registered general nurse in my language, and a registered mental nurse. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
You spent over 30 years working in the NHS and other public and third sector organisations, specialising in drug and alcohol services. You were involved in commissioning services in the drug and alcohol and public health areas. You developed your own mental health problems in your early 20s, which set you on a journey to find some effective approaches that would help build resilience to the issue going forward. And on that journey, you discovered neurolinguistic programming, normally known as NLP, and that was the first thing that actually really spoke to you.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that one.
Yeah.
Now a trainer, coach and therapist, you work with private clients and also for a veteran blue light services organisation called Rocket to Recovery, which provides support for individuals and their family around post-traumatic stress and anxiety. You are qualified to train others now in NLP, IEMT, Integral Eye Movement Therapy, Metaphors of Movement, and All Pain to Go, a psychological approach in managing enduring pain, fatigue and emotional conditions.
Yep.
You've got many special interests, but certainly like to see the development of people, and you've done quite a bit of work in developing communication leadership skills for people in the public sector, and won an award in 2017 for your work in the transformation of Durham Constabulary from the International NLP Award.
Easy for you to say.
It certainly is. You like to cook, eat at good restaurants, which we're doing after this, a new curry house.
Curry.
And you and Jackie are keen travellers. That's your partner, wife
And business partner, yeah.
Wife and business partner with 9 grandchildren. You're also happy when they're around the family.
Yeah.
Okay, might you tap this out when you had a drink yourself. A keen quizzer, Alan has been on several TV game shows, and more recently Popmaster on BBC Radio 2,
Absolutely.
where he scored the lowest score of anyone in 15 years. No, I'm joking.
You made that up.
I did make that up.
Yeah, jeez.
Did you do well?
I did all right, yeah. I went through to the 3 and 10, but it was Barry White, not my area. I got 1.
Just on Popmaster.
That's why your wife's your business partner and not just your wife.
When I was a diesel fitter at Stagecoach at Teesside, on a morning, the garage would come to a standstill and the gaffer said, I need this bus out, we need to get it. Robbie, who I have a lot of time for, he ran the paint shop. He'd shout, shut your shite.
Yeah, it's 10:30.
Popmaster's on.
Get in.
And the garage would come to a complete
Really?
standstill, and the knowledge of them guys. So I love music.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So well done for getting through 3 and 10.
Thank you.
Alan, straight off the bat, what is mental strength to you?
To me, that's a big question, really, isn't it? I think one thing I teach people is it's unique to you. And sometimes strength is vulnerability. It's about not being strong. So I think as someone who's a beta male and proud of it, and has always been a sensitive guy, the world can be harsh, and it's how do you find your way through that. And I talk about inoculating yourself from the madness out there by finding your own way to cope, whatever that is for you. And if it's activity, if it's thinking about stuff, if it's finding support and help, if it's just actually the biggest thing is not taking yourself too seriously, if you can do that, then I think there's lots of ways to get your version of mental strength, because everyone's unique. For me, I went on that journey because of my quite bad depression that I had in my early 20s, and even though I was a mental health nurse and worked with lots of other people, I'd seen success be very, very slim in that environment of medication and occupation. And I thought, unless I do something on the inside, this is going to be the same the rest of my life. So I went off on a journey and did some quite alternative stuff. So I was an NHS nurse. I'm quite a geek, so I was quite evidence-based, quite logical. And I thought, well, that's not working very well, so I'll go and find something else. So I did all sorts of sort of psychotherapy, hypnotherapy, a bit of healing, acupuncture, all sorts of stuff. All of it with lots of good stuff to it, but not really for me.
Yeah.
And then I learned this NLP stuff, neurolinguistic programming. It just really spoke to me because it's so simple, so easy to apply. It's not academic. Although I am quite academic, it's not academic. It's practical. It's like wear it and see if it works for you. And it really did. And I went straight off from learning it. I stayed at day 1 straight through to the practitioner level, master practitioner level trainers. And I've been training nearly 20 years now. And then the other things I've trained equally are very effective, quick. Because in my experience, people want to feel well quick. They don't want to go and sit on a hill for 6 months and find themselves. They want to be happy now. They want to be rid of that intrusive stuff now. And there are definitely ways to do it, but it isn't always spoken about. I think a lot of stuff is poo-pooed by so-called professionals who want evidence, but what is evidence?
What is evidence?
To who? Whose evidence is it? The stuff I do doesn't fit the medical model evidence, etc., etc. So I'm in a constant world of doing what I do anyway, and the guys who are trained in this, especially like the Veterans Charity I mentioned, Rock to Recovery, and other organisations, go out and do stuff that really, really works, really helps people quick, gets them to feeling good really quick. Where a lot of the systems people have to trudge through before that make them worse.
Right. I'm getting the vibe.
You're getting the vibe.
I'm getting a certain vibe here. That for you personally, the clinical routes, it's astonishing really, being a mental health nurse, being a nurse yourself, but the clinical routes for depression for yourself weren't serving you in any way, didn't help at all, or in short term at all, or was it?
I didn't even go there, to be fair.
Didn't you?
Because I'd seen it, because I'd been working in it, and I'm all. I didn't know what the word for it really was then, but it's all about empowerment, and rather than the old adage, don't give me a fish, teach me to fish, teach me how I can make myself happy going forward, or at least not unhappy, resilient to just the shit out there. The day, people who are struggling and maybe taking it out on me, at work. I was working in the prison at the time, and it was a bit of a culture shock for me as a nurse to go into a prison. The client group weren't the problem; it was the attitude that the staff, the bullying. Yeah. I think so. For my story, I was really badly bullied at school, and I learned how to run fast, basically, and also I think I went on a journey after that to understand the bully. So I worked in mental health. I worked in the locked mental health ward. I worked in prisons. I worked in probation, drug and alcohol services, because I still had a lot of empathy. And now as an adult, knowing that the people who bullied me were traumatised.
Yeah.
How long has it took you to realise that was what you were doing? Because at the time, I suppose, when you're young, you never thought, right, I need to go and understand that bully. Now I need to do this. So when was it that you started to realise that was actually what you were doing?
I think on that journey when I felt myself depressed. Yeah. So I kind of went, oh shit, yeah, actually, something's happened there that I wasn't even aware of. And then I kind of was looking back, because I'm an absolute believer in you're there, you're where you went to be. I put myself in places that I was learning from. And I learned in the prison that it's all front. All these lads who bullied me, it was all front. If I'd stood up to them, it wouldn't have worked. And in the prison, he's me, shit scared, basically. Well, actually, I wasn't. But they started fighting in front of me so I could break it up. And I'm thinking, that you fucking done that just to, so I stopped you. And it's all front, it's all swagger. And
bullying people because they've been bullied.
Yeah, it all hurt people. Hurt people, don't they? And that's people might think it's surprising I've got that much empathy and love for people. But because I was given a lot of love as a child, I was lucky. I know now how lucky I was. So I've got an abundance of care and love to give to people. And I think a lot of people shut that off and go, oh, I'm not getting hurt.
Do you think that I experienced bullying at school? As you know, I spoke to you about it before, and I'm not sure if you think that hadn't happened, clearly you think you'd probably be on a different track.
I would have been, because I'd have been all academia. I'd have been all knowledge and no feelings. So at least I got feelings. I got bad feelings. Yeah. But I had to acknowledge my feelings, right. And I think that is something that wouldn't have happened.
Is that something you put down to your sort of root cause of your depression then?
I think so, yeah. I think it goes back to the day I went to school and I went, fuck me, everyone isn't nice to you all the time. Yeah. Because I had very supportive, loving parents, and it's it's a shock to me. But now I know it's they don't live by my rules; they live by their rules. And I was easy meat. In fact, until I was an adult, I was easy meat.
Imagine being able to go back to school at that age now, knowing what you know now as well.
Absolutely. We do as a company. My wife goes in and helps mostly the angry children that are about to be excluded to manage and regulate their emotions. That's where it goes. You've got to teach the bully how to be happy. Yeah. Because if the bully's happy, there won't be any reason to pick on the poor kids who aren't resilient and don't understand and not straight. I wasn't streetwise, I got eaten alive.
There's not actually that many alpha males around, are there? You mentioned yourself as a beta male. Maybe a lot of beta males Can you explain what you mean by beta male? And just
I've never been macho. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think and I know it's all front.
Yeah.
And if blokes would stop all that shit and just like go, I feel scared, I feel unhappy, I feel hurt, I feel vulnerable. Be vulnerable.
We've spoken to people previously and before the iteration of Every Man Can now, where that's obviously been part of their stories. Actually, and I've read loads of books about it. At some point, it's like they have a wake up where they go, actually, it usually happens with a nightmare or it's just one thing. It just hits them all at once, all the bad things they've done or things that they regret, and then suddenly have this massive awakening.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to accept, I mean, you seem like fairly comfortable as you.
I am.
I mean, and that's now, and that's been for what, 20 years or 15 years?
No, it's been less than that, really.
Has it?
I mean, it's
Putting age on him there.
I'm very old.
We've been here waiting that long for Matt to get here.
I've grown a beard like you guys. No, I think it took me even longer into that journey.
That's interesting.
And there's something I say to people now is, why fit in when you're meant to stand out? And I've always been different, and I've never really fit in, and I've never been part of the crew and the crowd. And I used to think that was a problem, because as a kid, I think most children do want to fit in at some level. And when I realised I didn't really want to and didn't need to, as an adult, that really helped.
Again, another thing I can relate to. I don't think that's been your problem, Matt Holman. I know it's my 16-year-old son. He won't mind me talking about it, but he knows his values. There's a lot of conversation about that. He knows, therefore, he knows what friends he wants to spend time with, and he knows the value of his own time. And I think for a 16-year-old to have that is terrifyingly powerful. Because if I had that when I was his age, and I've had this exact conversation with him, I think I would have. I wouldn't be 2 divorces to the wind. I think that's for sure for kickoff. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah, but isn't it good now though that
I'm not bad about that.
I talked to my lad 16, and I was saying to Bex when you were on the phone when I came to pick you up, and I was having a cup of tea with your lovely wife, and we were chatting. He was asking about Isaac, and he was saying, and he's like, he fits in. He's got different groups of friends, but isn't it nice that I had a great childhood, but my dad never, really spoke to me in depth about feelings or emotions, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. But isn't it nice to be able to just be open and give them that different view, whether they listen or not? But they clearly are.
Do you know, I remember this really weird. This is going to sound so fucking weird, but there was a guy who was working on our kitchen when 15 years ago or so, and Take That came on the radio when he was working, and he said, "I've got to stop here." I said, "I fucking love Take That." He's big working. I'm like,
brilliant.
I love this. And it was just one of those things where I thought, like when your thinking is that all tough guys, it's like you would never say it, but it's like, oh, this is the song, Take That music's the stuff that calms me down. And he started opening up about it, and I was like, what am I doing? Why am I trying to play to everyone else's song when actually I know exactly what I like about myself, I know exactly who I am, and I've been doing this too long. And it was just, I remember these little touch points as you go along, and you probably do as well, Alan. So when we talk about mental strength, I would say that the conversations recently suggest you are quite, you know who you are, you know what mental strength is. But that was maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Was there a tipping point? Do you remember a certain point which was like, whether...
I not specifically, no, but then I've got a shit memory. So I think just it's been like an evolution. I don't think there was an absolute sort of scales from my eyes there.
That's it.
But it's definitely something that's happened even more over the past 7 or 8 years, where I've just genuinely become myself. Because I think one of the things to be is genuine and authentic, and I was trying to be someone I wasn't, trying to be something I wasn't, trying to care about stuff I didn't really care about. And I think that's a simple key, is to find out who you are. And it's nothing fancy, and it's nothing, you can just be happy now if you want to be. You don't have to be the way you are. If you don't like it, you can change it. And I think the techniques I've learned over the years is so transformational. The amount of lives I must have touched, and I don't do it for that reason. Yeah. I do it for that reason because I want people to be happy, but I'm not invested in their change. If they want to change, it's there. If they don't want to change, they're not ready yet. But they might be one day, and it's instilling stuff whenever the person's ready.
I'm really pleased you said that, because I think a lot of people are looking for that magic moment. And I just want people to know that it's not. It's like an evolution. It has steps forward. It has steps back. steps when you regress and sort of see the old behaviours coming back out again, and then recognise it. But for me, what I recognise is that what went for what used to be days, maybe weeks before I'd recognise and come back to, well, actually that was on me. That it takes seconds, if that. And it's like, yeah, do you know what? I've been a dick. What I just said there was actually just my chimp talking, and I can move on from that.
Yeah.
And just start to move forward and just recognise that actually that's what we're all like.
Yeah.
It's not just you who's actually struggling your way through this and having to work it and evolving as you go. We talked about this in the last pod, didn't we, Matt?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Sorry, I just want to. I really want to cut back on that one.
Yeah.
With when you first said it there about the beta male, at first I thought, what is that? And when you explained it, it was really powerful. Really powerful. It was quite emotional for me because of that. Just finding yourself and who you really are. I think I've been through a stage through that. I'm a bit like you, memory shit. And I've been through that journey of who am I really? I enjoy that anyway from a self-development point of view.
Yeah.
And it just really hit me, and I love that. And I love that beta male. I genuinely believe that I am that. I don't want to be an alpha male.
No.
Go back. I don't know how many years ago, but I probably did. I think we've all been through that, men especially, and so many men are now thinking that they have to be that alpha male. But also, even from a female point of view, you hear a lot of females, don't you, saying, "I want that alpha male."
Yeah.
But why? Why do they want it? I'm not asking you the question, but it's just interesting why they want that. I find.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really hit me hard. That's a good. It was good.
I mean, it's equally there's alpha females and beta females. So it is the chimp. It's the dominance. Who's the dominant? Big monkey in the pack. And I think if we just admit that we're quite happy being sensitive, we're quite happy being, not with that external trauma response, which is fight. It's accepting that people behave. Now as an adult, I can see that behaviour, and I've just been to a school this morning actually, which works with the excluded children, and they've all got potential, they've all got hope.
Yeah.
But what they do, they get punished, and we're not going to help the children who are struggling because they're getting bullied if we just exclude the bully, because they'll just do it on the streets. It's teaching people different values and different ways to express their emotional stuff. But the systems haven't improved. In fact, because of things like budget cuts and the way that people are now experiencing the world virtually and not really, there's a lot of reasons why people's ability to cope has dropped. And they're looking in the wrong places for the answer, in my opinion.
I think that's a good place to pick up the conversation after this very short break.
Now then, we hope you're enjoying the pod. Just a little break to tell you about Every Man Can. You can find us on your usual social media platforms. You can find the podcast on wherever you get your podcasts from. We don't care, as long as you listen to it, you enjoy it, you get something from it, and you pass it on to your mates. Enjoy the interview. Let's get back to it.
Thanks, Alan. We're just over 20 minutes in, and I think we've got 20 minutes left or so. And I think we could probably talk for 3 hours. I can see it already. I want to push on this one because I think there's a good chance we'll have you back on in the future. But the nature of NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, integral eye movement therapy, all pain to go, and metaphors of movement. Four modalities I think they're referred to in therapy that can be trained to anyone actually. They're not non-clinical approaches. Working for many people, but very much outside of what's regarded as the evidence-based system, which is, we know, absolutely has its place, as we've spoken about before, as does medication. But you don't, there's a quote from a lady I mention on mental health first aid all the time, which is you cannot wrap a recovery around a vacuum. And it's not just about being a good pill taker. So this thing, NLP, tell us about NLP and the other approaches. Just a bit of an outline.
NLP's been around for 50 years or so, and it does. It's how you do these things. It's like lots of things. It's something I'm trained in, but I do my way of doing it, which I think is real. So it is used by people in the high energy coaching. Tony Robbins is a NLP. It does get a bit of a bad rap as being very Americanized and very kind of. There's lots of poorer versions of it, but the version I do of it is understanding how I tick. So I know me. I know what's me and what's not me. I know what's for me and what's not for me. I don't get suckered into other people's stuff like I used to. It also means that I can understand people really, really quickly. So I can get them really quickly, so that I can either communicate really effectively with them and help to influence them, or I can be wary of them as well, which is something obviously in my history I've got to learn how to be safe, because I wasn't safe as a younger person, and also it just stops me having long periods of bad feelings.
Yeah.
So I still get down days, I would call them now, but they're not even that really. They're just kind of, you know, that old word melancholy, the old word. I just feel a bit sort of can't be asked. But I go, well, okay, it's just a day today. We'll have a day off. We'll have a duvet day. We'll do a bit of self-care. And then we're back to normal tomorrow. Yeah. Whereas before it would have been got deeper and long. It took ages.
Yeah.
So it helps with that. But it's more than that. It's a communication model. It's a way of influencing people generally. It's used in lots of different areas. It's good for communication in sales and management, leadership, kind leadership, understanding people. I think one of the things I see a lot is transactional stuff instead of relational stuff, and that's throughout all public sector and private stuff I've worked in. And it's more about having choice.
Yeah.
The other stuff came afterwards, and it's all come from the same place, really. But a guy called Andy Austin developed the eye movement therapy, integral eye movement therapy, which is a really quick way of shifting stuff like trauma, emotional stuff, identity stuff, without reliving anything. And it's non-clinical. There is a clinical eye movement therapy, which, in my experience, has often made people worse. I work with a lot of veterans who have had really, really poor approaches, which have actually driven them to the brink of suicide.
Really?
And this is stuff that's, you know, recommended and accredited by...
Why is that?
Because it involves reliving trauma.
It, redescribing it.
Yeah, redescribing it. They've always had to do that a few times anyway, especially if they're trying to leave the service.
I think that's funny, Matt Holman.
Yeah.
Because systems are not trauma informed, you know, and the big bit of work that you're aware of, Richie, is in the Tees area, of South Tees area. I'm involved in helping systems think about being more trauma informed. Mm-hmm. It's a long journey, you know, getting every interaction to be a kind interaction is a big job. But it's a start, you know, you've got to start somewhere. And, you know, if I was going to Dublin, I wouldn't start from here, but I am where I am.
Do you know what the weird thing is? And I said it in the middle of that. It's funny, isn't it? You think that's funny, Matt? I know exactly why. Because if I can say you're someone who has had to.
Oh yeah.
Retell that story.
From start to finish, with medical professionals 9 times. Then recently, I've had to do something with work. My ex-work. And then I found out that I had to compile a document which basically outlined everything all over again, which ultimately has fucked me up a little bit. Bad dreams have started again. Anxiety, distancing myself from people who I really care for and love, which is fine because I talk about this a lot, about self-awareness. I was no good to be around last week, but I wholly contributed to me having to sit for 2 days, go through a document, read it, send it off to my mate who sent it back and said, change this, change that. Then having to email, you know, the email addresses that come back, then you get emails back from them, and it just brings up it all back of it. And it's interesting, I spoke to Alan about it because obviously I've been on I've done 2 days of your course and I had to dip out the last 2, but
that was NLP, wasn't it?
Yeah, briefly knew the history of it, and he was asking how I was getting on, and I said, actually, my last professional appointment, the selected medical practitioner who was allocated my case for the second time said, right, I've read it 3 times, I've read every medical thing, the last thing you are going to do today is relive it. I don't want to hear your story, I want to know where you're at now.
Good.
And I cried.
Yeah. Good.
And he said, "Are you okay?" And I just said to him, "You do not realise how thankful I am. Like,
how
I'm so grateful of him."
How mad is that?
But yeah, and it's.
I mean,
changing that culture though. So really, and basically, what I'm talking about is the ill health retirement route. That's what I'm talking about, and it's just my good mate's going through it now, and I guarantee you, he was resolvable.
Right.
they could have got him back to work. I really, truly believe that, and I've told him that. But the cost of the process, they've lost him.
Yeah.
The processes are unfailing, and they don't understand. They really, really don't understand. And I think that individual professional who did that is the exception rather than the rule, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I do sound like I slag off the services. I don't. It's individual people within the services who are just not thinking about what they're doing really, and not being human in their approach to people. There's some amazing people in the system, but
just come in there a second.
Sorry, mate.
No, not at all. I think right back to where you started, which is something we repeat, and I think we'll keep repeating, which is people's individual preferences. Some people, when they volunteer to retell it, it's when they volunteer to tell it. If they have to be forced into telling it, it's a completely different relationship to that experience, isn't it? But you mentioned there about kind of, I mean, I think that is important, like the individual experience of people, finding out what works for them. That's a fundamental factor that's not really acknowledged within the mental health system at all, as far as I can tell. It's like, look, this is what we have to offer within the NHS. This is like, didn't exist prior to 2006 to 2007. This is the gold standard, and this is essentially what he's looked at as being right for everyone, which to me is madness.
Yeah, but all it takes is, so in my case, or the cases of people in my position, is you go to your doctor, you go to the force medical practitioner, you then go to a psychiatrist, you then go to a psychologist, psychiatrist, back to your force medical advisor, you're back and forward to the doctors. Then you've got to get through the psychiatrist appointment, which is horrific, then get to the point where you have to tell the SMP exactly what's happened again.
Yeah.
When really, the well-being side of everything, and the people who should say, right, listen, Matt has gone through this. Mm-hmm. This is his case. He is not to constantly repeat himself. I understand it with psychologists, psychiatrists. I kind of get that to a point, having been through it. You're probably going to disagree with me.
Well, I mean, tell your story once and pass it round. I mean, it's like, I would say, how you're feeling today and how quick do you want rid of it? You know, and I'll make the offer. I'll help you now. You don't have to repeat anymore, do you? You're sorted now. I'll help you, mate. And it's the veterans I work with have gone through very much the same, where they've had to relive shit over and over again. For what purpose? Curiosity. Someone who can't be asked to read the notes and wants you to repeat it.
So using your skills and your technique, how do you raise the level of their mental strength?
Who's the client?
No, so say to me, I come to you and say, right, I've repeated my story 9 times. You're in the system.
Yeah.
Using your skills, your knowledge, your international awards that you've got. How do you change my mental strength to move me forward?
Well, get rid of that shit that keeps you awake at night.
And this isn't about me, I'm just using me as an example.
No, well, someone like you, I would asking for a friend again, Matt.
Called Mitch.
Some weirdo like you.
Yeah, he works for Cleveland Police.
Used to.
It's the thing is, we suffer from being so aware of the medical model, and the paradigm we live in is a medical model where they treat you like you're a chemical factory, or they cut you open, and some of that's amazing. No, I use the NHS. It's amazing, and the people within it are mostly amazing, but the system is not functioning in some levels. So long-term chronic conditions of any kind, they haven't got a clue, and they won't say they don't know what to do, and they won't say they don't know what to do a lot of the time. They could send them to people who are skilled in the stuff that I do, and it would really help. Or an acupuncturist, or, you know. But when it comes to mental health problems or emotional health problems, which I think are different, again, they do stuff that either doesn't work or makes it worse. Some people might get benefit. I'm just mindful that I'm so pissed off with the way it makes people sometimes, and they won't look at this stuff because they haven't got evidence that suits them. But actually, let me work with you, Matt, and you can come back on here and say what your evidence is. But the way it works is it dissolves the ability to remember with emotion whatever happened to you. I don't know what happened to you, so I don't need to know. You don't need to tell me. I need to know how you feel. I need to know how do you want to feel. I need to know how quick do you want to feel that way. And within 15 minutes of doing some stuff, you will feel completely different in 90% plus of cases. And it's all about changing the structure on the inside of you of how you're unconscious is keeping this thing as something you have to be aware of when it's not happening anymore.
Yeah.
You've mentioned unconscious.
Yes.
How do we see unconscious presented in society in a negative way?
In a negative way? Well,
how does it play out?
Yeah, I think.
What's this thing about the unconscious? And
Well, the thing is, it's a big term for lots of different things. And for me, the unconscious drives everything. So anyone who's ever attempted to change a habit, let's just strip it right back to, right, I've decided I'm going to go on January the 1st. That's it. I'm not eating chocolate anymore and I'm going to the gym 5 times a week. It lasts how long? 3 days? 2 days? And the gym signs you up for a week because they know you're not going back after February. for a whole year, sorry. Because they know you're not coming back after February. Because we negotiate with the wrong part of our body. We're negotiating with the logical adult grown-up brain. Yes, I really think I should do this thing. But your unconscious goes, fuck that, you like chocolate. You're feeling a bit pissed off, go and have some chocolate. The more you think about not eating stuff, the more you want to eat it. Yeah. So the unconscious drives everything. It's always in control. The analogy I use is like an elephant and a rider. So the elephant seems to be following the direction of the rider on the top of the elephant. Giving people rides or whatever it's doing. But if the elephant was scared, if a predator came around the corner, the elephant would be off. There's nothing the little man could do anything about it. It's the same with our unconscious. What's happening with PTS structure is your unconscious is it's like a ghost that's always sitting in front of your eyes and it's scanning the horizon looking for something like that again. And it's unlikely that that's going to happen again if the situation's completely different. So we can just say to the unconscious, you don't need to think about that anymore. You know, it's safe. There's no real threat apart from the threat everyone lives with. You don't need to scan the horizon for that. Put that down. Be happy. Leave that where it belongs, back in the history. Get back into the now and have the life you want. And if people really, really want to feel better, which most people do, it just changes things.
I got emotional then.
Yeah, because your unconscious is listening to me and it knows it's going to work. And
so I have it. This isn't turned into a therapy session for Matt.
Sounds like it is like.
It is like.
It's good now. Good.
37 minutes in, everyone's
So
like,
Matthew.
everyone listening is like, fuck off.
Part 2. Got to be a part 2.
No, but what I'm saying
Lie
is,
down, get comfortable.
yeah. But I was learning to do that. But then we go back to what you were talking about: is the reliving.
Yeah.
So when you're not forced to, but it's a kind of the next step is right. Well, do a document. Well, we aren't doing that for you. You do it, and you go through it again. And that's where it brings it up, I suppose, and that's where things need to change.
But then it takes you back.
Yeah. Now you're out of it though.
Yeah.
Now you've got.
Yes.
So there is an issue that if you or someone like you, obviously called Pat, yeah,
Wayne.
But if someone came along, if you'd come along 6 months ago and got rid of that, you wouldn't be credible to the people who think you have to be really, really poorly to get your whatever it is, pension or whatever. So I've got to be really careful that we keep people. This is ridiculous. This is the ridiculous system we're in. We've got to keep people unwell so they're a credible witness. So now you don't need to be a witness anymore. We can make you feel. Well, I think. I don't. It sounds too good to be true, doesn't it?
You got to
This
perform.
is what I'm always up against. All right, it probably won't work, but we can give it a go. And it might work. The people just feel completely different. Like it's, yeah, I know it happened, but I don't need to keep reliving it or feeling it anymore.
We had. I'm going to talk personally now as well. So obviously I've been doing the NLP training with
June and Lynn Mark couch.
IMT as well. Is
Yeah.
this your fucking couch, Harry? Oh, we're in a pub. Sorry,
2 pints.
no, yeah, no, not even that, mate. Yeah, I'm on a pint now. No, I'm kidding. I completely lost my train of thought. So, yes, you did some IEMT on me, which took about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And I had quite a big release during that moment. And I got jumped several times when I was at school, got beaten up. And my relationship, Alan had said something during the course, which was the relationship. The reason we struggle with trauma isn't necessarily the event; it's our relationship to it, our thoughts about what we did or didn't do, and particularly with my getting jumped by groups of lads. several times was that I didn't fight back, but I felt like weak because I didn't fight back, and he could see it in my face. This is something that at 45-year-old I'm still carrying. So I did my EMT, and my face went completely red, and I can't remember. I mean, this is described back to me. I was doing I think I holding my breath, and I had this massive release. Where it's like a big dump, right?
Yeah.
Big emotional dump, and it was. And I try and think about that now. It immediately just clicks to, yeah, but Richie, what would anyone else do? That's my first thing that comes in my head. What would anyone else do? What are you troubling yourself for? I have no problem with it. It's like, are you joking? You really think about that in that way, where you think some lads jump here. Like, actually, I go one step further and go, what the hell was going on through in their heads? Like, I'm thinking there was probably one leader who probably could. The rest of them would perceive that they couldn't fight, and the rest of them were just following him because they were scared of him.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, how sad is that? And that's what happened. That's how it happened, and that's it. And it's done with. I used to struggle with that. I used to struggle to talk about it and so on, and several other things. But it's gone. I cannot even like form it up in my head properly.
It changes. It puts you into an adult perspective on something that happened as a young person in that. So it put you into your current brain now, looking at it in the past. But that sigh, that release. If you've got a dog, on a night when a dog's done its duty, like it's off guard. When a dog goes off guard, it lies down and you watch it exhale. Yeah. So it's the same. We're on guard till we let it go. So dogs shake it off. Dogs have a near miss and they shake themselves off and it goes away. If you look in other countries where people are in the middle of a tragedy and they're wailing and waving their arms about and smacking themselves and shouting, they don't tend to get post-traumatic stress because they let it out. Some of our cultural stuff is we hold it in. We're not allowed to demonstrate. Big boys don't cry and all that shite. And if we have a trauma, don't speak about it, get over it or cope with it. We need to let it out somehow, and this helps let it out.
Yeah, don't for God's sake talk about it. You might. Everyone else will think you're weak. It's like, well, what would you have done in the same situation? I'll say exactly what you would have done.
Of course it
You
was.
crawled up and practically tried to protect yourself. That's it. Simple as that.
You got to sniff the bullshit. You know,
Absolutely.
people bullshit about all this stuff.
Absolutely.
And it's cutting through that. And I think it's recognising that everyone's scared. They just don't. Some people just don't like admitting it.
Where would the balance be between the clinical model? I mean, these things probably should be clinical. That's bottom line, really, as well.
They ruin it.
That's
the problem.
They would ruin it.
Yeah. So it's like take CBT, right?
Yeah.
I'm on one.
Right,
Take CBT.
He's 3 pints in.
Yeah.
Good dump.
Well, 2.5.
He's on 3.
But I'm like this stone cold sober. It's CBT has got validity, and it was something that used to work really, really well. But then, unfortunately, the NHS got hold of it and standardised it and made it something people read from sheets. Yeah. And the people who are delivering it aren't all the right kind of people. I've trained people in the stuff I do who are absolutely non-clinical, who are proper people, as we might say around here. And they're brilliant at delivering it because they do it with heart, they do it with connection, and they don't care about this like ticking boxes and doing stuff in the right way. They do the right thing, not things the right way.
Yeah, I've seen some of the NHS reviews about kind of CBT and kind of like pointing at their own problems with it and then doing absolutely nothing about it basically as well. But even chatting to people in the system who deliver it, they understand now that, I mean, the local service in Teesside offer a whole variety of different offers now, and very much more focused on well-being, which is very welcome to see, recognising that basically their answer when I said what's the waiting time is a very difficult question to answer because it depends on who you are, what you're going through and where you're at,
and
which is what you want to start hearing, isn't it?
And I've always got to say there's some really good people in the system. There's some people who are so hamstrung with stupid rules or lack of what they can do, that they would the people are capable but not allowed. And as someone who was, I'm passionate about public service. I don't want it to change from public service into anything else.
No.
And one of the reasons people like me leave public service is the frustration with the stupid system and the lack of ears that people don't listen and they don't want to change. I mean, my company's called Change Working because essentially most of us don't really like changing that much. And people say they want change, but they don't actually want to change anything about themselves. or the system.
Well
And
said.
if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got.
You said to us as well that people would have to be through that clinical system, have to been through it at least
Yes.
before they would come to yourself. But it's almost like they have to. There's obviously more than one reason for that, but part of it is that they have to see that and
Yes.
actually accept that hasn't worked for them, and then they come to the next step. Basically.
Usually. And
That's okay.
People don't know. People don't. I mean, I'm kind to everyone really. The professionals only know what they know.
Yeah.
The doctors only know what they're taught to do. They might get half a day on some of this stuff and then have to do it every day. People can only work with the resources they've got.
Yeah.
And I think we need to resource everyone. And I think when I'm talking about changing trauma-informed approaches, we've got to be kind to the people who we're asking to change as well.
Yeah.
We don't want to traumatise people who are in leadership positions or making the decisions. If we scare them, if we get too rebellious, it will just scare people and it will just stop the change. So I think we've got to have kindness across the whole system.
Agree.
But also choice is the biggest thing. Acceptance and choice are the two biggest words here.
Acceptance, choice, and again, for people to get to that point where they recognise what works for them. Keep trying it. It might be the clinical thing that starts you off like it did for me. Started to open my eyes to who I was. And I went on a medium long-term journey. It was like, well, who the hell are you? And then I've ended up here where it's like, well, this shit is for me. This is the stuff that's really working for me well.
Yeah.
Whether it's doing saunas and getting a cold bath. I mean, all that stuff. It's like, there's a lot of evidence around, there's very little evidence around mental health and hot and cold therapy, but it works really well for me.
I was just about to say, but it works for you.
But it works for me.
Whatever works for you.
Exactly.
Whatever works.
Alan, almost certainly I think we're going to have to touch base. Where do you think, where do we find you now, and where do you think we will be in sort of next 10, 20 years with all this stuff,
where do you
trauma informed and so on?
Yeah, where you find me now, I mean, I'm based here in North Allerton, at Change Working. I've got a little office here, but I work mostly doing training. So I work as a therapist and coach, but my biggest passion is to teach and train people who work with people, real people who work with people in these areas that you've been talking about. So yeah, that's where I am currently. I'm doing a big piece of work in south of Tees, which is where I kind of met you with the trauma-informed approach.
Sorry for that.
I know, I manage. I'm
Feeling.
also working. There's a good documentary coming out around the work that I mentioned about the rocked recovery. So a guy who was really, really ill with his PTS follows him for 5 years, him and his wife, across a journey of nothing working, then finding these kind of approaches that I teach. Not with me, but with people who learn that stuff as well.
Brilliant.
Then wanting to learn how to do it. So they've both been on the training with me. Now Kenny, the guy in the movies, now a coach working with other soldiers and blue light staff, doing really, really well.
Fantastic.
It shows IEMT, integral eye movement therapy, and other things as something that's hopeful, because a lot of messages that are given from the army and other services is that PTS has to be lived with.
Yeah,
There is
not something you
there
can
is
shake
no
off.
cure,
Yeah.
and that is total bullshit.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Look at the TV. The guys called the Speakmans, brilliant therapists. Look a bit strange, but they're brilliant therapists. They've got a way of working with PTS that nobody will pick up. Andy Austin, the guy that created this, has offered it free to the army. They won't pick it up.
It's weird.
And it's because there's no what's called evidence, or their version of evidence. Where's the evidence for love?
It's not their idea.
It's not mine.
No idea.
It's amazing what can be achieved when no one gives a shit whose idea it was.
I believe when more and more people are talking about this stuff and they continue to share their examples, we'll see more of this kind of thing happening as well. So, thank you very much for your time, Alan. Thank you for letting us do this interview.
I enjoyed it.
Fascinating.
You can find you on all the usual Instagram. I think you can join in TikTok later on this week. Let's not
TikTok,
talk about that.
Later on,
Ki-
this is, yeah.
Kids showing you how it's done.
Yeah, a young
Get you on
chap
there.
came and did some videos.
Dancing.
Apparently, I'm going on the TikTok, whatever that is.
Dancing in North Allerton High Street.
Let us have that documentary. We'll share it on our socials
Yeah,
when
we'll
it
do.
comes
Yeah,
through.
we'll
And there's
do.
another
Possible.
documentary for South Tees just being released as well.
Yes, that was great. Yeah,
Cool.
we shall be.
Called We Shall Be, and we're sharing that through our socials as well. So take a look at that. Alan, thank you for your time.
It's
Thank
been
you.
a pleasure.
Absolutely has.
You're very welcome.
Happy to come back on again in the
I'll
future.
come back anytime.
Beautiful.
I'll come back every time.
Have a good week, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. See you later.